The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation or Stewart Title. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
When it comes to real estate, everything matters. Whether you're a realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title is here to inform, entertain, and inspire you. Host Bill Napick from Stewart Title will talk with guests about what really matters when it comes to owning, buying, and selling real estate. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title starts right now. Here's your host, Bill Napick.
And welcome to the show, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. So glad you joined us once again. We are excited to be here as always, and we have assembled a tremendous cast. So whether you are listening right here in Houston, Texas, or you may be in California, you may be in the Woodlands, it doesn't matter. We think you're going to enjoy the show. Always having great guests. And now...
In real estate, it's good to know your resources, what's relevant and what's real. Here it is, the Real Estate Buzz with Roseann Rogers.
And here she is, the Real Estate Buzz with Roseann Rogers. She's right here. Roseann, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
It's super awesome, as always. And I always wonder when you're on, because I never know in advance what is the buzz today.
It's always a surprise,
That's
isn't
what
it?
makes it perfect. What's the buzz?
Well, the buzz is communicating with your customers and prospects. How do you communicate? We think we're effective at it, but let me tell you, we're not. We're not. I had 5 emails today about people asking me if Stewart Title offices were open or closed for Good Friday. So if they're calling me, Bill,
we need
and
to get
they're
that word
asking
out.
me, made me think we're probably not doing the best job that we could to inform our customers that we are not open on Friday.
That is exactly right. And the interesting thing about communication is sometimes we think we're communicating, but it doesn't happen.
Well, it's a lot in our head. I'll be perfectly honest with you. With social media, this is how we think. Oh, I did communicate with Shelby. I saw Shelby. No, I didn't see Shelby. I commented on her Facebook page, and I think that I communicated with her, but I didn't invite her to that party that I said I thought I did because I just liked it and I thought I had a conversation, which was not a conversation. Bill, I mean, it wasn't.
Here's something. When it comes to communication via email, this happens a lot. I do it all the time, and I notice when we send emails out, it seems like our attention spans are so short, we don't read the complete email.
We don't.
We read maybe the first sentence, if we read it at all.
If you're not on that first,
we better be concise.
First, like half part of the page, you didn't get to the bottom of it.
Exactly.
So you have to be quick, concise, direct. And also, how do you do that? What's your best practices? Okay, let's just take this holiday because we talked about. Okay, so the offices are going to be closed. Now, some of our customers, how did you communicate with them? Did you email them? Did you call them? Did you send a flyer out? Did you send a card? And let's remind you, not everyone celebrates the holiday. So you have to keep that and be very conscious about that as well. So what did you do to communicate with people, to let people know? Also, you're going to have anxious customers, no matter what business that you're in. You're not open on Friday? What do you mean?
You can't please everybody.
You can't, but what are you doing because you're not open on Friday? Well, we're going to open early on Saturday, or we're going to be available on Monday. Everything's going to shift. But to give people get anxious, they get anxiety about things. So you have to make sure that you communicate, whether it's the holiday or perhaps something else that's coming up that you know that's in advance that you should put on your calendar and even your Outlook or Google, depending on what your preference is, hey, count down to this. I'm going to be sure that I do this first to let our customers or prospects know what we're doing and how we're going to illustrate something.
And we hear it all the time, Roseann, especially on this show when we talk to realtors. One of the first things I remember last week where the realtor said, the first thing I do is I sit down, and even though the person has gone through the real estate they may have sold 7 homes, I go and walk them through because things change. And they also use the term setting expectations. So important.
Right. Or you forget, Bill. Let's just put it right out there.
I forgot a lot of things.
Okay, you and I both have bought and sold lots of homes before. But when you're sitting down and going through it again, you're like, what? What is that again I have to do? Oh, wait a second.
I don't remember signing this last time.
Wait, there's so many paper. I didn't know there's so many. Well, you have done this 6 times, Roseann. Bill, you've done it 4 to 6 times yourself. But however, again, things change, rules change, expectations. Also, you're not doing it every day. I'm not supposed to remember everything, and no, either are you. So we need to be reminded of those things. And so I think it's a good step back. And like I said, I was thinking about this when I received the 5 emails, and then I was almost like, well, what offices? Is it all the? I mean, I was like, oh no, and you don't want to come across as being on the defensive. You always want to always be on the offense. You always want to be able to engage with your customers or prospects first. Heaven forbid they call you and have to ask the question. You want to be able to communicate them
that is
the
right.
right message.
That is so important. And just the idea, Roseann, of communications, no matter what whether we're the realtor, whether we are assembling and bringing forth a sales team to bring messages out there every day, I think at any point, no matter what we do, communication, we always should brush up on our communication skills. And, oh, yeah, how about those listening skills, too?
Listening skills, absolutely. You're
that one
you're
I
right.
need work on. I know that.
No, I think you did a pretty good job because you are
thank you.
listening to your guests, because sometimes what's the next question going to be? And if you're not listening to what they're saying, you might have, I always remember this as in my reporting days, you know how you always, I have these sheet of paper that I need to make sure I ask all these questions. And sometimes you have it in your brain so much that you have it. And the person that you ask, I remember tons of time with so many celebrities, I asked one question and they answered 5 in that same answer. And then if you're not listening, you're asking them the
Then
same
there you go.
question, and they already answered it for
They're
you.
like, well, I already answered
Yeah,
that. That's
duh.
exactly right. That
Hello?
happens. That really does happen all
It
the time.
does.
So you do have to listen.
You have it in your, you need to make sure, obviously, you have a game plan and what you want to ask and the information that you need to get, and you're being able to communicate otherwise. But it's like if you're not listening, you're going to miss some of the boat. But I think part of it is, I'd like to know too, and you can always is think about that and even ask your staff or your colleagues, what's the best ways that you communicate? Because everybody has great ideas and everybody does it a different way and put a different spin on it. And also sometimes if you're communicating the same way over and over again, like everything, you kind of get to the delete button. You go, yeah, here's that thing, here's that email again, or here's that again. So change it up so people don't hit the delete.
And when you mention emails and things like that, I think if we go back to the history of communication, communication is very basic. Some of the same principles take place today, but we are in a world with so many distractions. So it's totally different, I think. And we're talking about the importance of being concise, getting the word out. But also, sometimes when we put something out there, we want to make sure that person is engaged as well, because we may put something out and they don't hear it or they don't see it. So somehow we need to gauge that engagement. I'm thinking of a realtor right now where they may be talking to someone about listing their property.
Absolutely.
They better be listening and also interjecting the right things to get that listing and to give the information that they need to.
Timing's everything.
There
and
you
then
go. Even comedians need timing.
It's all about the timing of everything. What's the market doing right now? What's the comps in your area? How's this going to be? And relying on your realtor to really be able to communicate effectively. And I think that's, people always say, oh, I've got to go to the internet and I can do it. Yes, you can get great information from the internet. And there's lots of great real estate websites to go to, but a realtor really has done these transactions so many times and they know what they're doing and being effective. And so that's important. And I think it's also when you come to the closing table, why it's important to go people that you trust, that have the information to make sure that you're walking out of the closing table and you're signing all your documents and things are good and you going home with those brand new keys.
And I'm thinking, too, when we think about why people choose certain realtors, why they choose certain title companies, and that goes back to the idea of being comfortable. And part of that comfort is the fact that perhaps they've communicated with that person effectively before. That helps that comfort level. Thus, they go back to use the services once again of the realtor or even the title company.
It's our topic today. It's communication. Why do you pick the realtor that you do is because the communication factor and how well they communicate with you. And that same with the title company. Stewart Title is your escrow officers, your business development officers. What's the communication level? How is it executed? And how is it on an ongoing basis? This is the one thing, though. You can't just communicate one time a year or one closing or one client or one listing or one buyer. You've got to be communicating constantly.
That's right. When I think about the things that someone would be interested in a title company, certainly Stewart Title, I say there's 4 things, at least 4 main things, and one of those giant ones is communication. Other than that, I talk about stability. Mm-hmm. Pick a title company that's going to be there 20 years down the road. Financial strength, security protocols, all those things are so important.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that resonates to all all aspects of all kinds of different businesses. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because, we all try to do our best, and obviously we didn't hit a home run, and the Astros are in the process of getting ready for starting day next week, and we want to hit our home run every time. And unfortunately, I think we didn't do that. We maybe had gotten, what if say we're using like baseball analogies, a double. Certainly didn't get everybody home.
And not only that, I like to say the word security
Security,
protocols just for the fun of it. Roseann, with the last 30 seconds, what else would you like people to know?
Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy your holidays, communicate effectively, but communicate when there's more than just holidays going on. If you have a message to get out, if there's a special event that you have going on, if there's something that's happening on a calendar, be sure you communicate with your clients and also your prospects in an effective manner. And also reach out to others in your office to find out how you're communicating and what their best practices are, because you can learn from other people.
Indeed, always room for improvement. That is the Real Estate Buzz today. Thank you, Roseann.
Thank you so much, Bill. I'll see you next time.
Until then.
Most people don't know that Stewart offers business, home, and auto insurance. In fact, Stewart Insurance and Risk Management has been doing that and more for over 10 years. And they partner with many leading insurance companies to offer great rates. They're a national insurance agency operating in all 50 states, delivering a broad range of insurance products. Whether you need a home insurance quote for a client's home closing or your own insurance needs, you can count on them. Call 866-845-4676. That's 866-845-4676. Stewart Insurance and Risk Management is here to help.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Tyler, your host, Bill Nampick. And now, you may have heard of this gentleman. He is Kevin Riles. He has a podcast called The Real Estate of Life. And we're ending Motivational March, so that's super awesome. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. I appreciate being invited. I want to thank Stewart Title and Marion specifically for inviting this humble guy to this worldwide broadcast of the biggest, best radio show ever.
Man, thank you so much for that endorsement. And, oh, yeah, Marion Walters is super awesome. Doing a tremendous job out there in the Sugar Land area. But let's tell people, you also are a broker and commercial, residential real estate. Tell us about what you're doing in the real estate transactional part.
I own Kevin Riles Commercial. It's named after this guy named Kevin Riles. And we do commercial real estate. Basically, we specialize in investment brokerage. So anything that produces an investment return. So I do a lot of multifamily transactions, apartment complexes, retail centers. We also do have a specialty in bankruptcy properties that I've developed over time. So I list a lot of commercial properties and some residential for bankruptcy trustees here in the Houston area as well. So my experience kind of runs the gamut. Started off in real estate literally this year. In October, it will be 20 years ago. I got licensed and started in residential. I had the HUD contract in Houston for about 5 years. So I used to list all the HUD foreclosures in Houston, about 100 properties a month at the height of it for 5 years. And that kind of is my claim to fame, where some people may have heard of me. They've seen my name on foreclosures back in the 2007, 2008 type of time range. And then met so many investors during that time that I just, we moved over to starting to look for commercial properties. And that's when I transitioned to commercial. So
that's so interesting. The commercial, give people a feel. We talk about it on this show all the time, the market, mostly residential, but give us a word on the commercial side of things. How's it going? And is it as far as your practice in the commercial, is it in the Sugar Land area or all over Houston, first of all?
I am a regional commercial broker, which means that I have listings all the way down, literally right now in Galveston, all the way up to Dayton, which is just north of Crosby. I've listed commercial property all the way up to College Station. So commercial is kind of a little bit more difficult depending on the type of commercial you do to be regional. If you're an office tenant rep type person, you help businesses find office tenant rep, then you can kind of concentrate in the market. But if you do investment brokerage, you're looking for yield, and yield has no geography as long as it's a double-digit yield for most of my investor clients. So so literally anywhere I just did a deal in Beaumont. That was an apartment complex. So anything that's producing what we call a cap rate is fair game in the state of Texas. So I would say the market For investment brokerages right now, if you're looking for investments, it's a great time to do that, especially in the multifamily area, and especially I would think in the retail area as well. Multifamily, there's a high demand for that right now from not only Houston investors, but also I get a lot of calls from California, New York, and Canada, specifically Toronto, looking for chasing yield, as I call it, chasing a better return than what they're getting in their local market. So local investors have a little bit of advantage because they're here and they can kind of go drive to a property and see if they like it. But yeah, it's great. I mean, I enjoyed the transition. I made the hard transition about 8 years ago into commercial, and it has been a wonderful, not only business-wise, but also with the type of people that I meet.
And when we think about the knowledge that's needed, certainly someone practicing just residential real estate is complex at this point in time, a lot of terms. But when you get into the world of the commercial, you need it. It's like the movie. You need a special set of skills and a whole nother line of lingo and things and terms that are coming up. So that's very exciting to know that you're able to do that. And you also get to feel for the pulse of the economy, what's going on here, and even, as you mentioned, even in Beaumont.
Yeah, I mean, the set of skills you need, I'm an adjunct professor at Prairie View A&M University, and I always say this to my graduate students, that the set of skills you need for a commercial transaction do have a basis in residential. You have to kind of understand the process, but you need to be an economist because you look at macro and microeconomics, and then you have to be my MBA is in finance, so you have to be able to calculate cap rates, internal rate of returns. It depends on the investor and what level of detail that they want, but you have to understand those types of things in order to be able to represent your client better. So yes, the level of training, the level of knowledge is significant, and that's the residential agents have to have a level of knowledge, and I respect that because I started on the residential side. But yes, there's a lot more math. I will definitely tell you that as it pertains to commercial real estate, but also understanding people. Residential agents come up to me a lot of times like, man, I really want to get into residential, but I'm intimidated, by it's so different. I always tell them it's different in the math standpoint, but the process is basically the same. A lot of them say, well, it's not as emotional. Like, people don't go to a commercial property and say, oh, I don't like the bathroom, so I don't think I'm going to buy, And I say, well, no, it's emotional. It's just emotional about numbers. So investors get really emotional when they're looking at returns. And so you have to be able to understand that. And you just talked about communication and understand body language and things of that nature to be able to interpret, hey, are they really liking this particular property? So those same skills come to bear.
And both these categories are ever changing. I want to go back to what you said. You mentioned about Toronto. I used to travel to Toronto all the time. And by the way, and I saw your episode about the characteristics of a great real estate agent with your friend in Toronto.
Yes.
And I used to love that Toronto area. People were friendly. I loved the sense of humor they had. And people outside of Texas or the U.S. do have an eye on our country and our state for investments.
Absolutely. And you're mentioning the Real Estate of Life, my podcast. That was a shameless plug. It's not really shameless. I was really plugging it. But the Real Estate of Life was my podcast, and I talked to one of my good friends. I used to own a RE/MAX brokerage, and John Lusink ran a RE/MAX brokerage in Toronto. We met at the broker-owner conference. And so John was talking about in that particular episode, just the successful characteristics of real estate agents. But to talk about Toronto and Houston are very similar, oil-based economies. And so a lot of people like Houston in Toronto because they feel like they have a good understanding because our economies are different. My background is computer science, computer engineering. I worked for Exxon when I first got out of college. And we have operations, or I say we, I'm still a stockholder, in Toronto. And so I would travel back and forth to Toronto as well. And so those markets, they feel like they understand it. And so they found markets around the United States that are similar to Toronto. And actually right now, real estate price-wise, Toronto is closer to New York than it is to Houston because it is a hot, almost bubblish market in Toronto.
I always remembered I remember getting on that QEW, and it was clean up there. People were friendly and a unique sense of humor.
Yes.
And let's tell people though about the podcast. You have it's called The Real Estate of Life.
Correct.
That's super awesome. Let's tell people how they could find your podcast.
Sure, absolutely.
And download the episodes.
So you can find it on any podcast from an audio standpoint, any podcasting service that you subscribe to, Apple, iTunes, Google Play, any podcasting service that you guys listen to. We also videotape it and have a video podcast when we're doing the audio, just like you do here. And you can find it on my website, kevinriles.com, kevinriles.com, and just click on podcasts. And so I started doing that, to be honest with you, is I've been doing motivational speaking probably for 25 years since college. Although real estate is my talent and I enjoy it and it's provided for my family, my calling is to teach, preach, and coach. And that podcast allows me to scratch that itch in the terms of real estate. The reason I call it the real estate of life is I talk about real estate because people want to hear about cap rates and how to invest and things of that nature, so I don't ignore that. But the reason I wanted to put the life on there is because I'm all about motivation, I'm all about success, I'm all about happiness, and I wanted space in the title so that people would know that I would be talking about life. And so I was excited about that.
And also, you're the author. Kevin, let's tell them the name of the books that you have out there. They're some pretty catchy titles, by the way. Let's tell them.
I appreciate it. Bill, I have two books I've authored. The first book was The 40 Acres and a Mule, The African American Guide to Building Wealth Through Real Estate. And that book was titled in that way because I'm African American. I deal with a lot of African American clients on the residential side, and I just noticed a need for knowledge of how to build wealth through real estate, either through purchasing real estate or the other way is to transfer wealth generationally. And so that's something that I wanted to talk about and give a guide for, again, my teaching itch. The second book was for realtors and really salespeople. I've spoken not only to realtors, but sales forces actually across the country, is Confessions of a Top Producer, 9 Tools for Sales Success and Abundance. And in that book, I talk a lot about how people used to always come up to me when I was the #1 agent in Houston and had all these statistics and things of that nature. How did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? And so I used to do a talk on, I have a tool bag, and inside that tool bag is everything you need to be successful in life and also in sales. And so I turned that talk into a book, and I talk about the different tools that people need not only to be successful in sales, but in life.
And give us a bullet point or two that's part of that book.
Sure, absolutely.
Because I'll say this too: when people see and talk to, especially when we're younger, we see someone successful, we're thinking that there's going to be a magic answer,
right.
and it's going to happen right away, but not.
No, not so much. Not so much. One of the things I talk about for a sales standpoint, since you have a real estate-based audience, is your niche will make you rich. Is one of the name of the chapters in the book. And
kind of catch you there, Kevin.
Yeah,
I like that.
Hey, the sales market.
That way they'll remember it.
Exactly. And
that's part of the teacher.
I've done that talk
That's a
10
teacher
years.
trick.
Exactly. Mnemonics. So what I mean by that is, when I first got started, I was trying to be a real estate agent for everyone and anything. You need a lease, great. You need to purchase, great. You need this side of town, great. And so when you're that spread out, you're not known for anything, right? And the great thing about real estate is anybody can get in it. The bad thing about real estate is anybody can get in it. So everybody with a license is, should be like a little. Everybody.
Our drummer's not here today.
Exactly.
The drum roll not working.
But you're on even par with everyone that has a license. So the way to differentiate yourself is be known by something. And so I became known, and I resisted it as first, as the foreclosure guy. A lot of agents at the time, foreclosure, HUD homes, this, and the other. Well, I found out that by being the foreclosure guy, people would come to me for foreclosures, and then I would be able to help them in all the other
stuff,
areas. Right. So exactly, that's one of the monikers that
the
I
niche will make you rich. Now, changing gears on that theme is that here you are, you're doing so many things. How is one successful? Give us a word on being successful when you're doing many things. As you're saying, you're a writer, you write books, you have the podcast out there, and you're doing real estate transaction, and you're teaching.
Right. I believe, again, that your niche will make you rich, and you have to lead with something. So now that I'm multidisciplinary, what do people know me for? And so Jack Trout and Al Reese wrote a book called Marketing: The Battle for Your Mind. And they said everyone in their head has a ladder for products and services. And there are companies on that ladder. So when I say the word hamburger, everybody that's listening to this just thought of their favorite hamburger place, right? It might be McDonald's. It might be a hole-in-the-wall spot in your side of town. But when you think of real estate, I want you to think of Kevin Riles. So I want to occupy that ladder, that top spot in your ladder. And when you come to me for that, then I'm able to tell you about my teaching and tell you about my motivation and things of that nature. So the real estate is really, as my mother would call it, the sugar on the tip of the spoon. When I was a child, she said I wouldn't eat my vegetables. So she would dip the spoon in the vegetables and then dip the tip in sugar. And my tongue would taste the sugar, and she would shove the the vegetables in my mouth. So the real estate is the sugar.
See, she had some moves too.
She did.
And
I learned from the best.
We're talking to Kevin Riles. Kevin, let's tell them how they could tune into the podcast and reach out to you for that commercial real estate transaction or anything else.
Sure, absolutely. KevinRiles.com is for the podcast. KevinRiles.com. Just remember my name. I'm Kevin Riles for everything: Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever the case. Kevin Riles, Riles, and then for my commercial listings, KevinRilesCommercial.com. You get that? Kevin Riles Commercial. That's it.
Very nice. The real estate of life, Kevin Riles. Thank you, Kevin, for being on the show.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
We're coming right back. Stay with us.
Stewart Title has been serving Texas for over 120 years. A Texas treasure, Stewart Title's longevity is a testimony to superior service, innovation, and knowing what their customers want. Recent surveys show that 92% of respondents want secure online tracking tools to help them during the closing process. Stewart Title offers the most robust and secure system to track transactions online available today. To learn more, contact Stewart Title at one of their many offices around the city. Stewart Title, online at stewart.com. That's STEWART.com.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. The fun continues. Here we are. And now we have the broker owner, DLR Properties. Who's that guy? He's Bobby. He's right here. Bobby De La Rosa. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Super awesome. Well, let's tell people DLR Properties, like your name, De La Rosa. Let's tell them about your company.
Yeah, so we've been around for about 25 years. Got my license in 1991 or so, and starting selling real estate right about then, long before all the bells and whistles we have today.
It's fascinating too how things change, but let's as far as the way you approach real estate here in the Houston area, or you may even go beyond. But let's tell people how you approach it. Do you go by geography in one part of town, or how do you work it?
Well, back in the day, that's kind of how we were trained. Hey, you farm an area, so on and so forth. But with day and age of internet and so forth, you just kind of you kind of go where the money is or where the sale needs to happen. Yesterday, I was out in Tomball area, and sometimes you'll find me down in Pearland and so forth. So you never know. So I'll go anywhere.
You got to be out there. There's no question about it. And when we think about the marketplace, like you mentioned Tomball. How's the market when you were there? Did you get a feel for how's things going in Tomball?
Things are moving extremely fast. Homes are lasting 3 days, 5 days, 7 days if they're well priced. Nothing is stopping the Houston real estate right now.
It's really amazing, too. So, and then what about Pearland? Those are two extremes. I'm looking at the pie in my mind right now of Houston. You're going from the northwest all the way down to the south. So what about Pearland?
No, again, growth. People definitely want to still live in Pearland. There's going to be some major traffic jams coming up here pretty soon, but they're definitely gravitating that way also. So,
when you think about the traffic jams, there's traffic everywhere. I can't believe it. I live on the west side. I'm in Houston, but if I walk 20 feet, I'm in Katy, and I'm amazed. I just got out there in September. I'm amazed at how much traffic. I mean, everywhere you go, it's unbelievable.
The city's growing, phenomenally growing, and that's exactly another reason why Houston is booming. The driving force, people are moving into the city. They're just trying to find affordable housing per se. So sometimes they got to go as far as Katy and so forth to get something reasonable sometimes, but they're still moving out there. That 99 has really blown it up also.
99 is actually fun to drive. I was on it not that long ago from Katy to the Woodlands, and it was actually a nice drive. I enjoyed it.
Still a nice drive. You get there in a heartbeat sometimes. 45 minutes.
And when we think about I saw or heard a statistic not that long ago, and I don't know if it's right, but they say 400 people a day are moving to the state of Texas. So when we put that with the traffic and things like that, I don't know how many out of that 400 are coming to Houston, but there's a lot of people still coming here. That's what I'm finding.
Absolutely. I mean, I moved out to the west side about 4 or 5 years ago, and we used to be a 22-minute commute, 25 at the most on the HOV, of course. Now becoming a 45 minutes. So now I'm paying to get in that HOV sometimes. So, but sometimes I feel sorry for the guy who's not paying for that HOV. He's lasting a whole
That's
lot
me,
longer.
and it's not because I just don't know how to work that HOV because I'm always driving by myself. However, I just brave it out going in on I-10 and just whatever happens, happens. But tell people, as far as real estate, what is it about the real estate profession that drew you in to begin with?
Well, for myself, when a lot of my friends were looking for that corporate career, I kind of thought to myself, well, I wanted to do something that allowed me to have a little more flexible time, a little self-employment, flexibility, and so forth. Was important to me. Trust me, it took a long time to kind of get revving. Again, back in the 90s, marketing was a whole lot different than what it is today. Now you have it at your fingertips. I just met with a marketing firm, and it's amazing what things have done here recently when it comes to just that. So,
and when we think about that, as far as any business that someone would be in, marketing is so important, getting the word out. What are the things that you're doing or looking to do from a marketing standpoint for DLR Properties?
Well, funny. Again, good question. We just met with a firm who thinks that we need to revamp a lot of things. So that's what we'll be doing. But, of course, video is huge right now. I'm probably getting tired of a lot of Facebook stuff coming regarding real estate, but it's getting the word out. We still do our traditional marketing stuff, mail-outs and so forth to our customer base that we've had for a long time. Those are still the things. And we get involved. We get involved with a lot of networking and meeting new people, new people who want to do new things, different areas, or even businesses and so forth. So.
From a relocation standpoint, is your company involved with very much relocation? Or generally speaking, do you see a lot of people coming into Houston and calling your company?
We do see some relocation. I can't say that they're calling us per se, but and that's why we want to get out there and do a little more marketing to capture some of that market. But we do see a lot of people moving in from the Northeast and California and so forth. We still see a lot of that.
I think that people just love the states without the state income tax. And for some reason, they're finding out about it now. And we hear about California all the time. And I wonder, though, from the Northeast, if we have any people coming from the Pennsylvania area, New York State. And I'm from Pennsylvania, by the way, but I got here a long time ago.
Yeah, they're running from the cold weather, and they don't want to go back. So, yes.
Now,
due to the weather.
Are you from Houston, by the way?
I am. So, wasn't born here, but we moved to Houston when I was about 5 years old. So.
And here we are. The year, Bobby, is going by so quickly. What is your feel? And I think we go by statistics and all those things, but every once in a while that gut feel serves us so well. What's your feeling of how we're going to play out here for the rest of the year from a residential real estate standpoint?
Good question. I've been through all the hurricanes and so forth, and Allison and Ike and whatnot. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get going. Harvey was definitely a good punch. However, I strongly feel that once people get back on track here, which is where everybody's seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, everybody's finally starting to move. Well, maybe not finally, but floors and so forth are starting to come back into a lot of these homes. And so from an economic standpoint, I really see that we're going to come out ahead. People are moving back into the homes, either they're putting their house back in the market. The guy from Katy that we were just talking about is tired of sitting in traffic. He's moving a little bit closer in. So definitely, a lot of homes are starting to turn.
And it's fascinating, too. We can do 20 shows on what triggers a real estate transaction. Sometimes it's the person that doesn't want to drive that far anymore, the person that wants a bigger yard for his dogs, like me. I was that guy a couple months ago. And then there's someone that wants to live right around all the excitement, all the restaurants and everything else. So many things. It's fascinating.
Absolutely. One of the areas that is beginning to thrive is that whole east side area, Navigation Canal, Harrisburg area. I'm seeing a lot of people that were living in the Heights. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer, but no, it's happening right now. They are all the young bucks are moving into the east side. They're buying up a lot of those townhouses that are popping. And again, a lot of eateries, a lot of bars and so forth are starting to pop up, which has been a sleeper area for quite a while. So we're familiar with that whole general vicinity. So we're definitely involved.
At some point, looking ahead in a few years or who knows how long, every area, every nook and cranny is going to be developed, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. If we can turn the clock ahead 10 years from now, it's going to be an interesting Houston as it is right today.
Absolutely. And like I tell anybody who comes across my way, Houston, from a real estate perspective, has always been a strong investment. Anybody who's out there looking to buy, looking to invest, Houston is your place to be. Buy something, I don't care what it is. buy it. Starter home, investment home, fourplex, stripe, whatever. You can always cash in that chip later, and you'll be ahead of the game, has been my experience.
What are you seeing in the world of new construction? Do a lot of people come to you and say, Bobby, that's the reason I want to move. I'm just tired of having a house that needs to be redone. I want a new house. Can I buy one from you?
Oh, absolutely. Back in the day, we sold the heck out of 59 in Williams. Was it Eagle something or another? I forget. But yeah, all those California buyers buying all that new construction, and there's a lot of new construction still happening in Houston. And again, back to that 99, it's popping up all over.
Yeah, 99 is pretty nice. Bobby, with the last minute or so, what else would you like people to know about DLR Properties or anything else?
You know, DLR Properties is a company that's going to give you top-notch service. I am the broker, and all of my agents, I have a team of about 14 realtors, and we're spread out around town, and it is a company that no matter what price point you're buying, back in the day I sold the heck out of $50,000 homes when a lot of people didn't want to. No matter what your budget is, we are going to take care of you, we're going to service you, and we're going to get you across that finish line from beginning to end.
And Bobby, let's tell people how they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Our phone number is 713-923-1499. Again, that number is 713-923-1499. Bobby De La Rosa at your service.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. Bobby De La Rosa, DLR Properties. Bobby, thank you for being on the show, and we're going to come right back with so much more. Stay with us.
Most people don't know that Stewart offers business, home, and auto insurance. In fact, Stewart Insurance and Risk Management has been doing that and more for over 10 years. And they partner with many leading insurance companies to offer great rates. They're a national insurance agency operating in all 50 states, delivering a broad range of insurance products. Whether you need a home insurance quote for a client's home closing or your own insurance needs, you can count on them. Call 866-845-4676. That's 866-845-4676. Stewart Insurance and Risk Management is here to help.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. We now have, she is Kay Street. She is the branch operations manager at Stewart Title. Oh yeah, right in the Heights. Kay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
It's awesome to see you, and also it's great to hear some from you because you are an escrow officer and you're the branch manager there at the Heights. But when people close a real estate transaction, it happens all the time, even seasoned realtors or people that have bought homes 5, 6 more times than that. But when they go to the closing, sometimes they just see the word escrow officer, but they don't really know what the escrow officer does. Give us a few bullet points about what you do in bringing that real estate transaction together.
Well, the closer needs to supervise the transaction from the beginning to the end. She should be able to process the settlement, to be able to make decisions as far as issuing title insurance, curative matters, oversee the funding, the handling of the legal documents, the entire process.
And that's a lot of things. It's like a Swiss watch, Kay. There's so many components and little details. How do you do it?
A lot of moving parts.
And moving parts. I like that. You're right.
Well, besides being an escrow officer, I'm also a title examiner, and I have a strong background in auditing. And so I have a level of experience over the transaction that gives me an insight that most don't. At the end of the day, what we're really doing is issuing insurance. So one of the strong suits I have is looking at the transaction from beginning to end with the avoidance of claims and losses. And behind that is understanding how to take risk. So in title insurance, you have a tendency to forget about making business decisions and coordinating with underwriting counsel to be able to make the deal happen rather than be an obstacle to the deal happen. So
now, wait a minute. Let's say that again. That is so important no matter what we do. Let's say that we want to be...
We want the deal. We want to make the deal happen
and not be an obstacle.
Right. And so there's a technique of being able to make, you have to have a level of experience to be able to do it, but you also have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to communicate within the industry, within underwriting counsel, within the examination department, which is kind of the step up I have because I have that experience. Unlike, the escrow, you're either strongly experienced in escrow or you're strongly experienced in one discipline or the other, but not both. So I've, built 40 years of a career of developing my experience in all areas of the title industry, which lends to the level of customer service that I'm able to give. So a lot of times when you have potential problems pop up in a transaction, the person you're talking to becomes more of a middleman, and they'll need to defer to who's the expert in that next discipline. Whereas I'm able to generally address most of those situations myself. Of course, I never step outside of my underwriting limits or decision making where it's, something is required to be approved by underwriting. I always respect that. But the emphasis is on making the deal happen and avoiding and protecting the agency and the underwriter by being able to recognize risk and, making those types of decisions.
And doing it by the book and by the bounds that we are all bound
by. We have a lot of rules, don't we?
And that's exactly right. And that just makes it more difficult. But also it shows, and I could see that you do it in a way, just the way you describe it, you do it with a certain amount of grace. We think about the idea of all the technicalities of a real estate transaction, and now we're talking about the technicalities of closing the transaction from your perspective. But then again, we always have that emotional component. So that even though when all those details are put together and ready to sign and ready for checks to be passed and keys, there's still at the closing the emotional component, and that too is art as well.
Well, your previous guest was talking about residential being emotional and commercial not, and I have a very strong background in commercial. That's my expertise, and commercial. Yes, the investors are always interested in the numbers, but there's a level of details that are involved that takes you out of the realm of the emotion, and it becomes more of decision making. And there's so many steps in commercial, but when it comes to residential, if you know how to communicate to people, I have a level of experience that the average layperson would not, that half the time they won't understand what I'm talking about. So whenever you throw something at them about requirements that are needed to be able to move forward with closing, what's really in front of them is all about closing, isn't it?
Hey, I just want the keys. I want to buy
I don't want to know about all this technical, cerebral stuff, right?
That's right.
And so, I try to simplify it. I try to bring it down to where, I could really talk way over and not get anywhere. If anything, create a level of frustration and such. And there was a time in my career, around 25 years, that I kind of started thinking about leaving the industry because, the challenges, how much more can you learn, that kind of thing. And I've said to myself, I'm not exactly doing surgery here. What am I offering people? It was the feedback from a customer that said to me, "This is the smoothest closing I've ever had. Why can't other title companies do this?"
There you go.
And I had to look at why that was. And what I recognized, if I'm not doing surgery, what I am doing is making somebody else's life better, especially the first-time buyer.
Very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, Kay Street. And Kay, you are found right there at our beautiful Heights location. Let's tell people how they can reach you.
Yes, I'm at 720 11th Street, Suite 200. The phone number is 713-401-1850, or email me directly at that's Kay, .street@stewart.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
Very nice. Thank you, Kay. And that is Kay Street from the Heights right here in Houston, Texas. We're coming right back with even more. Stay with us. And we are with Michelle Steffen, Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Let's get an idea from the very basics of home insurance, some of the things that you think people should think about and how you engage in that conversation.
Absolutely. So really, when you're looking at a home insurance policy, there's two components. There's two sides of it. It's the structure and the personal property and how you recover on this side. And then on the other side, it's the liability component, medical payments, etc. So really, you have to break those into two and then dissect it, have that conversation, talk about what the customer is going to be responsible for versus what we're going to have the insurance company pay. And then personal liability and medical payments is how do you protect yourself from those situations that come up in life. It essentially is property damage and bodily injury to others. So when those events happen, how do you protect yourself from those issues?
And simply put, that's why people really should have a conversation with someone at your company where you can tailor this insurance properly, whether it's home or auto, but in this case, the home, because there are so many things to think about, and each policy is different.
Definitely. There's so many variables in insurance. One size doesn't always fit all. So it's important to have that conversation. Talk to somebody who is knowledgeable, who is can help give you that confidence when you're making coverage decisions, and ask questions so that you can, grow personally and develop your understanding of the coverage that you're buying. It's a two-way street. We've got to communicate. You've got to tell me what your risks are, and I'm going to investigate with you and help you discover those risks, and then we're going to find a solution for you. So as long as a customer is engaged and involved in the process with us, then we're going to be able to find something that will, number one, meet their needs and help protect them after a loss.
And, of course, you are looking at policies all the time and are very familiar where the average person may not be, because when we look at a policy, there are so many words there, there's so many contingencies, and it's actually difficult. So we really encourage people to reach out and talk with you. Let's tell them the phone number here, by the way.
Sure. It's 866-845-4676. Again, that's 866-845-4676.
Give us a word on some of the things that we should think about when thinking about deductibles.
So we already kind of touched on the fact that the insured or the customer, the homeowner, is taking on some responsibility, and then the insurance company takes on responsibility as well. The deductible is essentially their responsibility, what they're going to have to pay to recover. And if the insurance policy doesn't provide essential coverages, then there's a possibility the customer is going to pay above and beyond that deductible. Our job is to help discover those above and beyonds and find solutions for them, or at least educate somebody on what their out-of-pocket risks will be.
Also, let's tell people the website so they can see the full offering of what we have here at Stewart Insurance and Risk Management.
Sure. It's stewart.com, and you just search for the insurance tab.
In the policy, and we're not going to talk about flood right now, but other water situations that occur in the home, those are things that should be looked at, because other than a flood, water could come through walls, leaking pipes, hole in the roof. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So you've got, the rising water we've talked to at length. Then you have 4 additional water damage coverages, and most people don't know that those even exist. So you've got number 1, sudden and accidental. That's the burst pipe scenario. And then after that, you've got water backup of sewers and drains. So essentially, if the water backs up into the home through the water entry points, that's any water entry point in the home. The third is foundation water damage coverage. So if you have a covered water loss and they have to dig in and excavate into that foundation in order to access the plumbing, that would protect the homeowner in that event to recover that foundation. And remember that the plumbing system itself is not covered. It's the damage that's caused from the water loss. So that's something the customer would be responsible for as a homeowner.
So many nuances. Once again, Michelle, we're making the case that you really should prepare and go over the policy with a professional like yourself. Let's tell them again how they can reach out.
Absolutely. 866-845-4676. One more time, 845-4676. And Bill, one last water damage. I almost missed it. Seepage and leakage coverage. Yeah, and that's the big one. That's the one that most companies don't pay for. Because it is something that's typically excluded, you don't just need to ask. You need to understand what the limitations are in your policy. So definitely make sure, again, those 4, seepage and leakage, sudden and accidental, water backup, and then foundation water damage.
Very nice. Michelle Steffen, Stewart Insurance and Risk Management. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Bill.
And welcome back. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. As we wind up the show, our incredible guests are back. He is Kevin Riles, Kevin Riles Commercial, and also has a tremendous podcast called The Real Estate of Life. Kevin, welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Bill.
And here we are with the last minute or so. What else do you want people to know about what you're doing? And let's tell them the coordinates, how they could find your podcast once again. It is awesome. After this show, I'm going to go download another one, listen on the way back to the office.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Yeah, you can find it on Instagram. I'm sorry. You can find me on Instagram at Kevin Riles. You can find my podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and all the podcast apps out there, The Real Estate of Life, or you can, when you get on those, you can just search my name and those podcasts come up. They can call our office at 281-403-3700, and you can always find me at kevinriles.com, Kevin Riles Commercial. So if you Google me, you will find everything that I'm involved in. I'm a former IT guy, so I try to make sure everything that I have going on is online.
281-403-3700. Also, going back to the Confessions of a Top Producer, if I have that right, give us another bullet point from that book. You mentioned the one, the itch to the niche.
The niche will make you rich.
There you go. What's another one?
Another one is you're only as good as your database. You're only as good as your database. In other words, the people that you hang around are very important as to your success in life and success in sales. And so, because those people know other people and those people know other people, so you need to make sure you're always feeding your database in life.
There you go. Like I think they said, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room, something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, check them out. 281-403-3700. Kevin Riles, and now Bobby De La Rosa, DLR Properties. Bobby, as we wind up things, let's tell people, what else would you like them to know about your company?
Well,
or anything else?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, we've been selling Houston real estate for over 25 years. And one of the things that I've obviously have seen is these prices keep shooting up. So supply and demand, people, we just talked earlier, people are moving into the city. And these prices keep upticking. Along, they're threatening, interest rates are threatening to shoot up. Not sure if that's really going to happen or not. But I know one thing for sure. Prices are going up. So get in there, buy yourself something. Give us a call, Bobby De La Rosa at DLR Properties. You can always Facebook us also, Bobby De La Rosa, DLR Properties, and you can find us there.
There you go. DLR Properties, 713-923-1499. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show. Super awesome. And, oh, yeah, the show is ending at the time of broadcast, but don't be sad because you can find it 24/7 at Stewart.com/Houston. That's right, Stewart.com/Houston. Or you can even go to my YouTube channel, Bill Napick Radio Shows, where you can see these incredible guests. That's right, Bill Napick Radio Shows. The K is silent. Napick. K is silent. You got it? Okay. Glad you do. Or go to Stewart.com. The beauty about Stewart.com/Houston, all the shows are laid out perfectly with the guests, topics, all those things. So check us out there. Thank you for listening. And until next week, thank you, everybody. We'll see you then. And thank you, Marion Walters, for being here and bringing Kevin. Till next week, we'll see you then.